Mob games, you freaking maniacs. Okay, you know what? I'd like to start this TED Talk by saying whoever they let cook in the studio, let them cook every freaking chapter. This thing was one of the best experiences Mob Games has offered us. Chapter 1, 2, and that stupid live service game don't even come close to Chapter 3. Its story's actually good, the gameplay's actually good, and we're finally getting a build up to the ending of this story. And if Mob Games actually finishes this and doesn't just keep it going so that way they make more money, then I give all credit to them. But we're not there yet, so I'm going to take that credit back for a bit. But like, why is this chapter so good? Why should you spend $15 on it? Yeah, that's right, it's $15. This is the most expensive thing Mob Games has put out. I want to talk about all that and why I think this is the best chapter of the game and probably the most important thing Mob Games has ever made for this franchise. That's all coming up. Let's get started. So there's too much new stuff that I want to discuss in more in depth than I normally could, so I'm gonna just put it all in one big section of the video, just called New Stuff. Starting off with new gameplay mechanics, Mob went all out on this chapter. New hand mechanics, new puzzle mechanics, and better boss fights that keep gameplay fresh and fun and unique, and those are all basically synonyms of each other. I just realized that. Starting off with those new hand mechanics, they're really fun. The green hand feels more useful in this chapter. I feel like you're using it more. And I know chapter 2, like it's fine, but you use it a lot more in this chapter. The purple hand is another fun inclusion, and it's like a little jump boost thing that's really fun. Probably my favorite of the new hands, and it's used throughout most of the entire game. That cannot be said though for the flare hand, which one you get the hand late, and two it's only like somewhat crucial in two sections of the game. It's useful in the playhouse section, which where like you kind of have to use it. You probably don't have to, but it's preferred. And then it's used in the final boss fight where you don't actually need to use it to win. You just can. Um, and I really hope this new hand, the flare hand, is used more because it was really fun to use. It was funny. It made me feel a little bit stronger because even though it was useless, but I just wish it had some more utilization. The new puzzle mechanics are all really fun to see, but they feel kind of a little bit repetitive at times. It doesn't too bad. Get this way with all puzzles, so I can't really say too much about it. That's bad, but it just feels like there's a lot. Feels like you're having to do a lot of puzzles just all the time. It's like I can't go 1 second without having to figure out how to move this power to this power and then plug this battery into this battery while also trying to divert this thing. And it's like it's a ton of stuff that I'm just like I don't care. I definitely think the puzzles that actually try to challenge you a bit are the best ones. The ones that like while they're not too complicated, you definitely have to think a bit more. I do like those ones a lot more than the other puzzles in this game that just feel like they're there just for the sake of being there. It's a little bit hard to describe to you how these puzzles work, and that's why I'm putting in clips of me doing the puzzles. So, boss fights are much more prominent in this chapter than previous ones. And I guess you could count the mini games in chapter 2 as boss fights, but I don't. So, they're not. Chapter 3 has 3 boss fights. The first one with Miss Delight is really creepy. Miss Delight, if you don't know, is a spawn of Satan and creepy as hell. This thing is so weird. It's a weeping angel, basically. So, like, if you're not looking at it, it'll just attack you. And it's a bit finicky. Miss Delight can teleport. Um, yeah, I don't know why she has that ability. What's defined as looking away is a bit finicky, too. It's, looking away is just like your eyesight isn't in a certain radius. So then she'll attack you. It's also a little bit frustrating because if you die, you have to go all the way back to the start of the boss fight. And I don't just mean like, oh, you have to like restart the boss fight. I mean like you have to like do the little puzzle every single time. It's kind of crazy. I mean, there's an absurd amount of trial and error in this boss fight, and while that does frustrate me, Looking back, it was actually an incredibly good boss fight. It's challenging, it requires a lot of restarting to get through it, and every single time you play through it, you get a little bit better at it, so that way you can move on to the next part of it. Like, it's all really well made. It's just annoying. It also does a good job at being scary. The flickering lights and off-putting aesthetic give this section a quite intimidating look. And also, that demon is so creepy and weird looking. The second boss fight is a chase that might require trial and error to get through. Really depends on how quick you are to pick things up. For me, it took forever because I did not know what I was doing. This chase is with the last of the Smiling Critters, Dog Day, who I want to go into more in depth later, but all you need to know right now is that Dog Day is chasing us. This brings up a big complaint of most of these boss fights, are that they're all chases, and I would like to see the bad guy, like the Huggy Wuggy chase, the Mommy Long Legs chase. Like both those characters have really good designs that you don't get to see that often because one, you never get to see them to begin with all that much, and then when you do, they don't do anything. So like when Mommy Long's Legs appears on screen, like that's a new thing. You don't like Huggy was on screen like twice before the boss fight started. He's literally he's in the game twice, and then you don't see him again until the boss fight. Mommy Longlegs is just a shadow for most of her appearances. She's like actually not even there half the time. Um, so yeah, like considering the fact that I like the Dog Day design, I really love that design, and then you never get to see it again. It's kind of frustrating. Personally, I would have liked if they had the flare gun hand be used a little bit because it's not used in this section after you defeat the little creepy things, the little tiny little smiling critters. You don't use it again until the boss fight, until like the catnap boss fight. I think it would have been cool if you used the flare gun hand to get rid of the little demons there inside Dog Day. Then Dog Day would give us some advice on where to go next or what to do to kill Catnap. But no, 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 that'd be too intelligent. Dog Day is a wasted character. Both me and my friend agree that Dog Day had a great voice actor and a great design, and I would have loved to see some more Dog Day content, but nope, now we just have to wait for the plush. You want more Dog Day content? Give us $50. I'm kidding. I don't think it's $50. I think it's 10. The third and final boss is of the main villain of this chapter, Catnap. And Catnap's boss fight is actually really fun. It's unique, it requires trial and error like the others, and it sets up the next chapter a lot more than the past two. In chapter 1, there was no real setup for the next chapter. In chapter 2, the only setup we get is Mommy Longlegs being taken away by the prototype, and in this chapter, the prototype is actually set up as this big threat that we, as the player, should be scared to fight. Even though I wanted more Catnap content because again we don't really get to see Catnap all that much, just like in the corner of our eyes or in like shadows. Um, I don't think that Catnap should have gone any further than he did. The death felt like it was kind of just necessary at that point. It's mentioned that in the chapter that Catnap views the prototype as a god, which is concerning on more levels than one. So when Catnap sees the prototype reach from the roof, I'm quite certain that he thinks he's about to get saved. He wasn't, or maybe he knew he was gonna die, but like I doubt it. I like from a story standpoint, I don't think that that's what the approach was. Because like, why would Catnap see his savior and be like, "Oh no, he's gonna kill me now. That's just lovely." Like he wouldn't think that. Oh, also, Boxy Boo and PJ Pugapillar are dead. I just thought I'd mention that because like at the prototype shrine, their bodies are just there. I did not know that, and it makes me kind of sad that we're not gonna see those characters ever again. Like I would have loved to see Boxy Boo in a mainline game and not in the spinoff, but it's fine, I guess. So let's talk about the new characters, I guess. And I'm talking characters that like we see prominently, so I'm not counting the smiling critters because they're just cutouts and voice lines. Those characters are Miss Delight, Catnap, Dog Day, and Ollie. All these characters are interesting in their own ways, but I will say Dog Day and Ollie are definitely my favorites of the four. It's not very often that we see characters who aren't evil in this game, and while I truly do believe that Ollie could be a twist villain, I don't think that's the case because that's dumb and predictable. Because every single person that's played this game and heard Ollie's voice was like, "Oh, it's just Gregory." It's like they're not gonna do that. I don't believe that they'll do that. That'd be so dumb if they did that. Like Ollie very well could be a twist villain, but I just don't think so. Dog Day, like I said earlier, could have been used a lot better. I really like Dog Day's voice actor. One of the very few instances in this game that voice acting is actually good and not just like kinda good. Well, I wanted more Dog Day content. I will say that this game already has a lot of new stuff, and adding another new character as a protagonist probably would have made things feel a bit more packed and unnecessary. The story of chapter 3 has a lot more depth to it than previous chapters. This chapter focuses on taking down what seems to be the last of the prototype's followers before we take him down for good. Poppy, Kissy Missy, and Ollie are all working together to take down the prototype, and Poppy trusts that we can kill Catnap since we killed Huggy and Mommy Longlegs, because apparently that means that like we're really strong. Uh, I don't think Poppy ever considered maybe those two were just stupid. Just a thought. After doing a lot of power diverting, the power shuts off. Then we have to go to the Home Sweet Home building to turn on the power. Home Sweet Home building. We're enveloped in the red mist, which causes us to hallucinate. This whole section of like us hallucinating is all about guilt. Like we, the player, used to work at Playtime Co. We still don't know who. Like a lot of people still think we're Elliot Ludwig. I don't think so, because I don't think we'd feel guilty about what we did. Because Elliot Ludwig is like a bad guy. He's literally, this whole section is like talking about how like a dead kid is at Elliot's mansion, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think Elliot would have cared. But I guess why else would they bring that up unless it was to show us that we are Elliot? Which, if so, that'd be cool. I just don't think so. Well, I do know about like what the guilt is, to be completely like to be certain, is that apparently killing Huggy is a big part of that guilt. At like the end of this section is a small chase with a terrifying version of Huggy Wuggy. And Huggy kills the player, and then we wake up in a new section of the building. And after some puzzle solving, we get out of there and are able to divert the power from Home Sweet Home to the central power area. Then we have to go to the school where we meet Miss Delay and deal with her section. After this, we get the flare gun hand and deal with these creepy smiling critter dolls. Then we meet Dog Day, who we learn is the last of the smiling critters, and then is immediately taken over by the little demon things. And after escaping Dog Day, we go to the counselor's office where we learn more about our character's past and what was going on at Playtime Co. And after we escape that, we connect the last bit of power needed to the central area and go back to the gas chamber room thing. Probably shouldn't call it the gas chamber. We go back to the gas diverting room, and right as we're about to put in the battery, Catnap appears and chases us. And after defeating Catnap, the prototype's arm comes down from the roof. Catnap believes he's about to get saved, at least that's what I think. And then the prototype kills Catnap and drags him away. And when we emerge from the fight, Poppy gives us a tape that shows us everything that happened when everyone died. And that tape is titled The Hour of Joy, which, if you don't remember, is what's been written all over the walls in this entire facility. And the Hour of Joy is basically the code name for the toy revolution. And after this, Poppy and the player take an elevator down somewhere. Kissy Missy stays behind, but then like she's attacked by what I can only assume the prototype. But like we're gonna have to wait a while because that's where the chapter ends. Yeah, thank you, Mob Games. Thank you for now forcing me to buy the next one. I have to know what happens to Kissy Missy, my least favorite character in this whole thing. To be completely honest, as good as this story is, I do have a couple critiques with it, and I'm gonna try to keep this brief because I don't really want to spend this whole section complaining. While I like the story, I think there's too much going from place to place just to solve one issue. Like in the first chapter, in the first two chapters, there's a feeling of progression, like we're actually going somewhere. But in this chapter, since you're confined to one place, it feels like you're just making a lot less progression. Another critique of this story is that Catnap feels completely wasted. Like, of all the villains in this series, except Mommy Longlegs, have been wasted because of a couple reasons. One, they don't have a personality. Like, just think about this. I know it sounds really stupid, but like, Huggy doesn't talk. Mr. Light just exists for the sake of a boss fight. Dog Day just dies instantly and then starts like yelling at us while he chases us. And Catnap is only seen in the shadows, or he'll just move like in a hallway where we can't see him. And I do like Catnap's boss fight. It's probably one of the best in the whole game. But that's the only part where you actually get to really see him. And bringing me on that point, too, we don't see them. Huggy wasn't seen. He was seen twice before the boss fight. Dog Day isn't seen really at all during the boss fight unless you're turning around. And Catnap is rarely seen. All the characters talk about Catnap as if he's this ferocious monster that like could attack you at any moment, but we don't get to see him be a ferocious monster. Apparently, there's like one moment where he kills Bunzo, but like you're only gonna notice that if you're paying a really close attention to your surroundings. And I feel like we could have just seen him like in small moments where we had to run away from him, just something that could like keep us on edge, like we were about to be attacked at any moment, not just being told that we could be attacked at any moment. Because let's be honest, we all know that we're not. And also, nothing's threatening about Ollie's voice telling us he could be there anywhere, every shadow, every flickering light. That's not intimidating. He sounds like a Muppet. I'm sorry, that was mean. That was mean. I'm sorry, Ollie. Not really. You're really annoying. Now, these reasons are really small and really aren't important when you think about it. But, like, when you're establishing a villain, I should see the villain. You don't see TV shows hide the bad guy throughout the whole thing, unless it's a bad Marvel show, and then in that case, it's kind of common. Um, I will say I do like the concept of this resistance being formed within Playtime Co. Like Poppy, Kissy, Ollie, and the player. They're all part of this group that are trying to take down the prototype once and for all. And it's cool to finally get a little bit of confirmation that Poppy isn't a bad guy. I feel like this choice was kind of made during the production of this chapter because Poppy had big villain vibes in chapter 2. And I think at some point down the line they realized that would be too predictable to make Poppy a bad guy. So in this chapter they decided to try and make her more likable. And it works a little bit, but I still couldn't find myself trusting her throughout this whole chapter. Like, she showed up at the very end and I'm like, oh, this is where she reveals that she's the main bad guy. And that's mainly because of how evil they made her seem in chapter 2. Like, one, she's got this whole villain monologue going on in chapter 2. Another point is that she's just like, she just sounds evil at the end of chapter 2. You go back after killing Mommy Longlegs and she's like, "Did you kill her? Good. Let's go on the train that I definitely won't sabotage." I mean, like, I think with a little bit more time, I can trust Poppy. Ollie's still untrustworthy. Like, I'm sorry, but how am I supposed to trust this mysterious kid that we know nothing about and only, like, a few months after the whole ruin thing with Gregory? I can't trust anything with, like, a mysterious disembodied voice that sounds like a trusting kid. Like, now, is Ollie a robot? I sure as hell hope not. That'd be weird. The only explanation I have is that Ollie's a toy that just knows his previous name. And my reasoning behind this is that Ollie's voice is too high to be a teenager. And since this whole incident happened 10 years ago, I doubt that, like, he was just a baby that somehow survived that whole incident. Because, like, if everyone else died, how do you expect me to believe that, a infant child could have survived and then survived for 10 more years? Like, he has to be a toy. I mean, like, I trust Kissy Missy, though. Like, despite her attacking us on sight, which is still confusing to me because she helped us in Chapter 2. I mean, like I said, she did help us in Chapter 2. So, like, I guess she's fine. Hopefully she's not dead, but, like, I doubt that her, like, screaming at the end of the chapter is a good sign for her, so she's probably dead. So this chapter is very good. I don't know if like you could tell, but I do like this chapter. It's actually scary at times. There are multiple boss fights that actually feel like challenges, and it takes the fear of the unknown and definitely uses it to the game's advantage. Like, one, this chapter is very dark, not in the sense it's like gory and bloody. It's just hard to see. My issues with this game mainly come from the bugs. Like, there are a few bugs in this chapter, definitely less than the last two because they don't allow you to move items, which means that you can't like break the game by flinging yourself out of a place or something. But nonetheless, there are bugs. Multiple times doors wouldn't close, which is just a loading error because it happened to other people too. But it like actually can soft lock you. So yeah, be careful because you might not be able to get out. Another one is that apparently, during the catnap boss fight, there would be a bug that spawns catnap right before, like only like 10 seconds, maybe not even 10 seconds, probably like 5 seconds before his like kill animation starts. And like this didn't happen to me, but it happened to my friend. And like considering the fact that we finished the game 4 days after release, I would have assumed that a small bug like that would be fixed, but like I guess you can't ask them to do everything. Another bug that happens a lot is that the little smiling critter dolls are just broken. Like they'll just appear out of nowhere. They'll get stuck on stupid things. They just like there's like texture glitches that just follow back as or that just break as they fall back into their little hidey holes. It's kind of weird. These little pieces of crap are so broken. It's kind of concerning. Something I really wanted in this game were collectibles. There's just nothing. Like there are notes you can collect, like little pieces of paper, but that's not a fun collectible because you can never tell whether it's a collectible because you can't pick up any other things. So how am I supposed to know that I can pick up certain pieces of paper? Like it's not like a giant golden statue that's like, "Oh yeah, no, that's a collectible." It's just like a piece of paper that's like it's just like in the arms of a Bunzo doll. It's like, how would I know that? How would I guess that? Like, someone tell me. This chapter expects you to do some weird stuff. For instance, when you're in the counselor's office, you're supposed to look up and hit a vent that drops a key. Why the hell would I do that? Like, the motto of this game is just look up. If you look up, you'll find the answer to everything, because that's really what this is. You're just supposed to know. Another instance is after you get out of the counselor's office, Ollie gives you a poppy flower, like key with the poppy flower outline. Now, this might just be a skill issue, but my friend could not find this generator. I mean, hell, like YouTubers that I have watched, like be very good at games, cannot find this generator. Um, it's kind of concerning, and like when the guy that plays video games for a living can't find it, I'm just saying. A little bit weird. Now, this part's a small complaint, like not a big one, not definitely like anything that should stop you from buying the game, because I found it very quickly using common sense. Because flower or poppy flower outline on key. I should probably look for something with a poppy flower. Oh, look at this generator with a poppy flower that's lit up. I wonder if I should use the key on that. I really did like the boss fights in this chapter. I know I've talked about the boss fights a lot, but like they're really good. If you should buy this chapter for anything, it's for the boss fights. Each one of them required trial and error, which made accomplishing them even more exciting and fun. The Mist of Light boss fight especially had this system of like constant trial and error. I know I'm saying trial and error a lot, and I really wish I didn't write it in the script as much because even I'm getting tired of saying it. I mean, despite my hate for this boss fight while I was attempting it, afterward, I realized that it was actually really well set up and fun. It required lots of attempts that allowed me to grow in knowledge as I attempted it more and more. The Dog Day boss fight is like this, but not exactly, because while it can require trial and error, if you're not being dumb, then you'll probably get it first try, but it took me a bit. And the cat boss fight might not take you multiple attempts, but it definitely takes prep time, which they do give you. You have the option to start the boss fight really whenever you want, which gives you enough time to figure out how to plan out your strategy, plan out what you're going to do, figure out where all the little like smoke beam things are. All those things, every single one of those things can be planned out right before the boss fight even starts. It's definitely one of the best the franchise has offered us, as it gives for a fun fight that requires you to be quick in your reaction time and always be aware of your surroundings. And if you don't have those two skills, you're probably gonna have to retry a lot. Sorry. This chapter gives a lot more lore info, more stuff about the past of Playtime Coast, and more stuff about how sketchy this establishment was. More stuff about how the hell did the government allow this to exist. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, people show up to adopt a kid, and the file, like, the papers just say testing. Why would you not go to the cops? Like, if I went to adopt a child and the lady told me, just on the paper here it says testing, like, I'm sorry, what? Um, so yeah, no. This is when I realized none of these indie horror games could ever happen in real life. So if you were ever concerned about that, maybe stop being concerned, because it would take some really bad police and really stupid government figures to not notice this as really sketchy. And not to mention the amount of toys that have had to have been recalled because they caused violent nightmares. Like, Catnap is literally a walking demon that can, like, why? Why would you trust this company? Like, if my kid ever got violent nightmares from their little doll, I would have been like, hell no. No, I'm burning this thing. I'm taking it, I'm burning it in the pits of hell. That thing needs to get out. So, but if you're really like a big lore person and you like to explore and solve mysteries, then you need to play this chapter especially more than the other two, because it gives a lot more insight on all that. You're like, you'll if you like lore, you're a big lore person, you're going to love this chapter. What I'm trying to say with all of this is that if you like horror, if you like mystery, and if you like the past two chapters of Poppy Playtime, then you are going to love this chapter, and you should absolutely buy it. It's also 34% off right now. It's also 34% off right now. Incredibly specific, I know. Its normal price is $15, but even at that price, I still would have bought it. This chapter was fun, and even though I found it frustrating at times, it made me realize that I do think Mob Games actually cares about this game. And when they make NFTs for lore reveals, make a live service game just for the hell of it, and especially when they make merch almost immediately after the first game's success, it's a little bit hard to think that, but I do think that with the effort that they're putting in, they do care. At least a little bit. I believe that Mob Games does care. Like, at least a little bit. They're obviously still trying to make money because they have to pay their employees, but you get the point. I believe that if after watching this video you wanted to play Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, then go buy it. It's really fun. I think you'll like it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.